Hey guys, welcome to another video from Historic Militaria. Today we are looking at another of the myriad number of M1 clones that came out of Western Europe during the Cold War. And this one is an Austrian M1. This one would date from the 60s to the 70s, even though it's very World War II looking. Austria actually made a lot of M1 helmets for other European countries, so you'll find Austrian shells in service with Norway and Sweden and Denmark and really all kinds of people because they were one of the countries that actually produced these. It's very, very similar to the American M1. I mean, just from first glance, it pretty much looks identical. You've got standard netting, which a lot of these do still have, and you can find it. Looks like American netting, but American netting seems to be a little bit of a finer, a little bit tighter, but really not that big of a deal. This one has seen some service, nothing major, some dents here and there, typical surplus condition. It's got an identifier on the back, which certainly ones that were worn seem to have quite often. You've got your chin strap, and one surefire way to tell it is not an American M1 is this right here. This is very much not an American style. The Americans used a hook system, very much different than this. If you see this, you know you are looking at an Austrian helmet. And we'll flip this over. That's how it actually connects like that. This triangular part here snaps onto that. Other than that, it really is just a standard M1. There's not a lot to go into. It does have a rear seam, like US helmets at the time. Flip it over. Your liner is also incredibly different than an American liner. We'll pull this guy out and take a look inside the shell of this helmet. Really nothing amazing inside it. Some will have an Austrian stamp. This one does not. So there's really no way to tell it was made in Austria other than by looking at it. You can look at the bales here. They really are almost identical to American. Again, it really comes down to your chin strap that's going to tell you it's different. And just the paint job is going to be different than an American one. It's more sort of gray-brown. An American is not going to look like that. So, and of course the liner is absolutely different than an American liner. And really different than most any other liner. For one thing, this is leather, and it's a pretty high quality leather, especially for a liner which usually seems to be made incredibly cheaply. You've got this really well-made, thick leather liner, very typical Austrian, German type strap here, or drawstring. You've got this with your 8 tongues, so very much almost like a Stahlhelm type liner in here. And flip it over. Other than that, it's very much like a typical one. However, you don't have a hole in the front for any kind of insignia or anything. That's just closed with a rivet. And we'll look at your rivet pattern here along the side. You got your vent hole here, and then a further rivet pattern like this, and around the back. And then we get back to the repeat on the side. And just a lot more rivets than on most liners. These are a little more complicated. Still just basically plastic. So pretty light, really nothing special. You've got your leather chin strap here with your buckle system. And if you see something like this, it definitely is going to not be an American. It's probably Austrian or German. So those are kind of what you're going to be looking for. They are still an interesting helmet. They are pretty readily available if you are interested in one of these, just to have a Cold War era example of a Allied helmet with an American forces, or if you just collect M1 helmets, or if you want to do any kind of reenacting, these are definitely nice ones to use, very available, and they really do mimic American ones, so you can use them and really not worry about it. But I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at this, as you may come across one of these in your collecting. And if you do like M1 helmets, these are very high quality and very cool to have. And like and subscribe, and we'll be doing more videos on helmets, ordnance, and firearms in the near future. Thanks for watching.